I'm stuck in a house with 3 monsters, and they don't want me to leave. Only the dampened, drawn-out creaks of floorboards sounded as I tiptoed to the front door. It was the dead of night, silent as a grave, and it smelled like one too. The air was heavy and rank, as if it had too died. 1 foot down, shifting my weight, the other up. A slow wooden groan, then repeat. Skip the one with the pockmark in it. That one's the loudest. They wake up every time I step on that one. I inched my way to the front door, then took a deep breath, held it, and reached for the doorknob, turning it up, not down. It let off a faint click, and I pulled the door out. Fresh air hit me, soothing, and I breathed it in deep. It soothed me too much. I fucked up. The door groaned as I pulled it, just the slightest bit too hard, and thought it was no louder than a weak cough. My entire being cringed. My breaths quickened. Something rustled behind me. I knew what it was. I closed my eyes. Tendrils snaked around me and pulled, and the world faded to black. I awoke to the dim light that was sunrise in my hell of a home. It was never brighter than a moonlight night, even when the sun was out. Like a coffee filter had been placed over the sky. Groaning, I sat up and winced as I recalled my mistake the night before. Twisted flesh, jagged and blacker than night itself, hung in front of me. Bright orange eyes peered out, floating on the mass, freely moving across its entire body. I would have been startled, but after God knows how many years, the terror of it had become numb. That one, with the shifty eyes, was 3. He was, as his name implied, the third thing I had ever encountered after crashing at sea. Like the others, he could not speak any human words, but he did have an uncomfortable tendency to whistle. His 2 eyes fixated on me, and a tendril shot out, propping up my head. Another, carrying a glass of water, gently approached my lips, and I drank from it, as I did every morning, trying to avoid his terrible gaze. A faint, dissonant tune came from his being, seeping into my bones. The look of him, the touch, that I had gotten used to, but the sad, slightly off-tune melody he offered me every morning never failed to set a chill into my spine. 3 left, and like clockwork, 2 drifted in. Like a pool of fog, it swirled along the floor, drifting towards me as a cloud in the sky would. I held a breath, out of a perpetual fear that I'd accidentally inhale the monster, and let it lift me. I never knew quite what it did during that time, as I always shut my eyes. But part of it was changing my clothes. Always the same, black set of robes, never any variety. I don't even want to begin to think about where they came from. I was, per the schedule, free to roam my run-down little room after the morning ritual. However, any further than that, and one would come for me. The first few weeks, I tried to escape every chance I got, and one would always find me, wherever I ran, and shake his mangled face at me. I think on some twisted level, they're trying to protect me. None of them, not even one, has ever harmed me in any way, and outside the cabin lies a dead sea of wood and bones. But after some unknown amount of time had stretched away from me, living alone in a cabin full of terrors, their intentions didn't matter. I've begged them to let me leave, even if it meant slowly dying, as long as I'd get to go outside of the decaying walls of their putrid little home. If I don't get to see my family again, or my friends, or play the guitar or anything else that makes life enjoyable, then why am I even alive? I wish I could tell them that, but they just don't understand. It's clear that there's only one way out of that hell, and it involves a lot of swimming. The sea took me there, and the sea can take me home, or it can take my life. The day crawled by, as I was forced to spend it in my little wooden dungeon, full of its creaking rotting wood and traitorous books, filled with empty pages. I suffered the unending loneliness, the mind-numbing boredom, and stayed awake this time. Napping during the day only makes me groggier at night, and if I'm groggy, I make mistakes, like I had the night before. There are no more of those to afford. The time finally came, after yet another day of eternal emptiness. I decided it was finally the day, one where I either get out of here, or I never wake up again. I meditated a few moments, steadying my nerves and breaths, and once the moon smudge poked out over the horizon, I began. Weight on the toes, one before the other, light on the step, then slowly applying 8, skip the 3rd, 8 and 10th floorboards, hug the wall down the staircase, over the pockmarked board, turning the handle up and not letting the fresh air dull my razor-sharp awareness. I didn't close the door behind me this time. Creeping down the stone porch steps, onto the path of decrepit tiles that led to them, I kept my breath held. Then, stopping on the last stone, I breathed deep twice more, and picked up a snapped femur from the ground, and ran faster than I ever had in my entire life. This time, not into the dead forest, but towards the ocean on our left. I heard him. I heard one clambering across the ground, scattering bones and dirt and twigs, but didn't look back. All my weight pressed forward, every step as long as possible, until one's footwork grew nearer. Then I turned, stopping quickly, and thrust the bone into his mangled, furry body. A mouth on his midsection, filled with jagged brown teeth, wailed. I turned and ran again, just a few more feet, and jumped off the cliff. The shock of cold bit at my skin, and I gulped for air, but used every ounce of my will to try and swim as far as I could. One's wailing faded behind me, but I did not look back. There was no going back. It wasn't long before I could no longer progress, or even stay afloat. The world faded black, and I sank, swallowed by the rough waves of water, black as ash. Something pulled me out. My eyes peeled open, like someone had glued them shut long ago. There was a strange heaviness and glow to the world, and I was wearing white? When did 2 ever dress me in something white? No, 2 would never do such a thing. I was no longer in my hell. The smell of wet wood and old porridge was gone, replaced by something lighter and floral. I felt sunlight on me, real sunlight, not something muted and fake, and welled up without even realizing it. I was free. There was a vortex of gasps and murmurs around me. A woman, I think, approached, cradling my head, holding up a cup of water. Her eyes were as wide as her smile. She whistled 3's favorite tune. If you're having a pleasant experience, be sure to subscribe and like the video. It'll help me to grow and reach a larger audience. Thank you.